This is your one-stop shop to using a new way to use Mass Electro Dragon, the Super Archer Blimp Edrags, in a easy-to-follow and condensed guide. Now, the last time on this series, we went through the Yeti slap at Town Hall 13 being one of the easiest attack strategies to use there. But now, we're here at Town Hall 15 looking at a Super Archer Blimp Electro Dragon strategy, which might be considered pretty easy against a particular style of base. Now, of course, before we go any further in this series, we always start with the army composition. This is really going to give you a choice in two different spectrums. Double clone or the single clone really comes down to personal preference. So, this strategy has three parts to it. It has the Super Archer Blimp, a small hero dive, and then of course the Mass Electro Dragons. So let's start with the Super Archer Blimp. Now, the Super Archer Blimp is your bread and butter of this strategy. Keep in mind that you mainly want to prioritize the Town Hall first, being one of the most important buildings in this strategy. So what you'll want to do is make sure you're using this against anti-2s and ring style bases. Any base that has a centralized Town Hall is fair game. You'll also want to make sure that you've got good chain on the base, so a compact base can also be very recommended for this strategy. Now, with the Super Archer Blimp, you basically have two ways of sending it in. The 1 clone and 2 clone, they're pretty similar. But in any case, you're going to start off with the use of the Battle Blimp and the Warden. This is just to go as deep into the base as you can to remove the Town Hall. When you deploy your clone spells and your invisibility and all your other spells, you'll want to start with an invisibility spell, then pop the Battle Blimp. Use another invisibility spell, then once the Super Archers start firing from that Battle Blimp, drop in the Rage, 1 to 2 clone spells, and then drop in another invisibility. Time that every 4 seconds. So this is really going to determine on how many invisibility spells you have left. This really depends, because with 1 clone, you will have 3 more left before you can drop in an additional rage spell. While with the 2 clones, you will only have about 4 remaining, so you'll want to get as much value and really time your invisibility spells every 4 seconds as much as you can. Now, with the Super Archer Blimp out of the way and getting pretty much a chunk of the core down, you now want to send in your heroes. All you really want your heroes to do is just funnel. So I would highly recommend bringing a Super Wall Breaker or 2, an Ice Golem. You can even bring some Headhunters if you would like. These are really good ways at making sure that you're able to get some really nice funnel. All you're just trying to do is cut off one area of the base for funneling. As you get over usually to like a corner area, drop in the use of a baby dragon or the use of an Electro Dragon on that side to kind of cut off the funnel. But your heroes you're just using your Barbarian King and Archer Queen. They're really looking for any and all defenses. Otherwise, all you're doing is just funneling. Now, finally, we have the Edrags. It's a really simple thing because once you've cut off 2 parts of your funnel, you've cleared the core, the rest of the base is designed for the Electro Dragons. You might lose some Edrags here and there, but the Electro Dragon should have a really simple time, especially since they do a lot of damage. They don't need spells or a warden ability due to their high HP, just keep in mind that they're relatively slow. So if you are going into something like the Monolith, that should be one of your number 1 priorities if you didn't remove it from the core with the Super Archer Blimp. You might have the Barbarian King and the Archer Queen move in with your Edrags, which could get huge value if you still have your King ability. You will also want to have the Royal Champion go in. I personally prefer having the Royal Champion go in with the Edrags because Diggy can get some amazing value. But you can use her away from it, especially if you are going in towards the enemy Barbarian King. Otherwise, it's a really simple time for your Edrags to move through. Just make sure you have a decent chain and try to prioritize any leftover air defenses. I personally prefer to bring an Ice Hound in this case, as the Ice Hound has a lot of HP, it has a freeze upon its death, and it has pretty much the tanking ability that will allow the Edrags to more comfortably get through, so I definitely personally prefer it for comfort. So now that you know every single part of this attack and how detailed it can be, let's go into a live attack and showing you how strong it is. Alrighty, let's go ahead and try this out. So I'm going to say, let's go ahead and start off with the Grand Warden and the Battle Blimp. Once the Battle Blimp hits around where the mortars are, let's use our Grand Warden ability. Let's drop an invisibility and let's pop the Blimp. Let's use another invisibility. Let's use the Clone, the Rage, and then let's go ahead and start timing our invisibility spells every 4 seconds. That's what's going to be super important for us to getting the most amount of value here. And it looks like we're getting a really decent amount. They're going in for the Town Hall. Let's drop another one. Let's drop in another Rage here. And final invisibility spell. There we go. We should get a little bit more out of the base, and there we go. We get a large portion. Oh my goodness. All right. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to be using my king on this side. Just going to kind of let him break the wall. Doesn't really need to worry about too many of those. He doesn't even need to worry about the Lava Hound. And then over here, let's use a baby dragon. I'm going to do the same thing over here. And I'm going to use the super wall breaker here with an ice golem and the archer queen. So the king will break through the wall and we'll deal with the ice golem. Let's go and use an Edrag over here as well. Let's pop our king ability. Kind of gets through that location. And now I'm going to go ahead and use my Electro Dragons with, of course, the Royal Champion and the Ice Hound kind of moving in. This is looking pretty good. Queen is still working her way quite easily through. Ice Hound's pulling a ton of traps. Let's go ahead and do that. Of course, we do pull the Poison Spell Tower. Let's use our Archer Queen ability right there. We've got a nice movement. We got nice movement through the base here. Edrags are still up. They are going to get hit by the Poison Spell Tower, but they have a lot of HP, so they should be fine. And let's see. The Unicorn goes over to heal up them real quick. We still have the Barbarian King up as well. Edrags are still easily moving through. They're going to deal with that entire area. It really all comes down to that air defense. I don't know. We still have a lot of Edrags here and a lot of good chain. Oh, we need one more hit. One more hit on that air defense. Oh my gosh, we get it. We got it. Kind of just barely too, but that just goes to show this is a pretty strong strategy, and even if there are double poison spell towers, it doesn't even matter. Now, of course, there are going to be some things that you need to be very wary about. I already talked about it here, but the spell tower mode is incredibly important. Poison spell towers is something that you need to avoid. But that's not the only counter. Anti-3s and teaser bases are pretty much not great for this strategy from my testing, so I would heavily recommend not using it against those type of bases. Keep in mind that you need to be able to get to key buildings like the Monolith early on. Inferno Towers are another one that you might want to really prioritize, and including the air defenses and the Expos. Realistically, Edrags without any spells or any warden ability, they're kind of vulnerable. So you just need to make sure that you are going into those vulnerable spots that you're going to have towards the back end earlier on, so you can more than easily have more success. Another thing that you should be really wary about is going to be the CC. Electro Titan CCs, more often than not, will counteract the Super Archer Blimp. So be very careful of that CC if you see it. Now, this strategy is a really comfort strategy. It works incredibly well against really common casual ring style bases, which means that for those casual players, especially here at Th15, it makes life 10 times easier. You're basically given the Electro Titan equivalent of the Super Archer Blimp. It's a really strong strategy, and I would heavily recommend that you guys try it out, especially against ring bases, and let me know if you're having any success with it.